Hello people, thanks for joining me for another edition of the show Q Sports on ASENT Television. I'm JIDE OLANIRAN. Today's show is dedicated to the women folk. Of course, we will be going to the United States where a legend of the game is standing by. We will be talking to Allison Fisher on today's show. It's the month of March and we are celebrating women on the show today. So there is inspiration to draw from this amazing woman who will be joining me on the show from the United States. We'll go on a short break, and when we come back, the chat with Allison Fisher begins. Hello, folks. Thanks for joining me for another scintillating edition of your Saraway Q Sports show on ASENT Television. Today is an amazing day. This is special because it is my pleasure to have someone special on the show today. Today, we are in the month of March, and the month of March is dedicated to women. And that is the reason I will be talking to a legend of Q Sports. They call her. There are so many names that she's been given. Some will call a dominant duchess. So many names, that she's been given. And today we will be having the opportunity to talk to Allison Fisher. Allison joins me all the way from the United States today. Allison Fisher, how are you doing?
I am wonderful, thank you. It's a bit earlier for me than it is for you, but I appreciate everyone tuning in.
Well, Allison, you'll have to talk us through how your road to limelight or your road to the top. What was it like for you growing up?
It started very long ago, many, many years ago, when I was 7 years old. My father was watching a game called Pot Black, which was a snooker program on television. And I liked the look of it, and I asked for a small table for Christmas. So that was how it all started for me at 7 years old. And at 11 years old, I moved on to a 6x3 foot table that my father acquired from my uncle. And then a year later, I was in the local pub and I saw a full-size snooker table like you have in the background behind you, 12 feet by 6 feet. And that was the beginning for me of a love affair with Q Sports.
Not everybody had the opportunity to start the way you started. But what would you say kept you going?
Well, I think I was very, very fortunate and I had good parental support. My parents were really good. They encouraged me. They never said you can't do something. I used to participate in lots of different sports at school too. So I always had a very busy life as a teenager doing many different things, but snooker really took over when I was about 14, 15 years old. I knew that was what I wanted to do with my life and become professional at. And they supported that.
So for you, if you aren't doing anything aside, if you aren't doing any sport aside from snooker, what sport will you be doing?
Well, I don't know. I don't play it very well, but I love tennis. I think tennis is a wonderful sport. But if I hadn't been a snooker player, I think I might have been a PE teacher, physical education teacher. So I used to love playing hockey, netball, basketball. I was very active as a teenager. Not so much now.
Yes, I know. You came to prominence through a sport that it's known to be dominated by men. And how were you able to keep your head above the waters in that kind of?
That was interesting because you've got to think about it. I started playing as a youth. I was a teenager. And I didn't really think about the gender, that snooker attracted back in that day. So I was playing in the local pub and I didn't even think about me being a girl. Mm-hmm. And then I used to play in local league tournaments, the league matches, and some of the clubs wouldn't allow me to play in because I was female. So I started to see that very young. And then over the years, I just became a little bit of an ambassador, I think, for the women. You know, I was like the leader of the pack, and, you know, I've taken it to 2 continents, as you said. I started out in Europe, in England, and then moved to America in '95 and played the women's tour over here. And, you know, you experience a lot of that stuff in all the cue sports. But I've sort of outgrown all of that. It doesn't really matter anymore, you know. But, you know, it's not easy when you're growing up, I don't think, when you're younger. But I had a lot of great experiences too. I played some of the best men in the world through the Matchroom League and being a part of Matchroom Association.
You've done, I must say, you've done very good for yourself in this game. And everywhere snooker has been discussed right now, and anywhere they talk about the cue sports, your name comes to mind. And you wonder, this sport holds so much for young girls growing up these days.
Yeah, definitely. If you're referring to snooker, I think it does. And I think referring to pool, it definitely does. Pool is more accessible for people to go and play in the bars, in the clubs. You know, anywhere you go, you'll pretty much find a pool table. Snooker may be a little more tricky because there's not many snooker halls everywhere all over the world. But it's a very prominent game in Asia, very prominent all over Europe. So there's millions of people play cue sports throughout the world. It doesn't matter which game you play. And, you know, if you're a female and you want to give it a go, you should, because there's plenty of tournaments everywhere.
And if you look at today and you see, like you said, plenty of tournaments everywhere. If you don't look at a continent like Africa right now, have you ever talked about the fact that there's need to promote the game on a continent like Africa?
Yeah, I've met a couple of African players who've played in world events, and I don't think it's easy over there from, you know, what they say. But I believe black ball is very popular in Africa, and the pool games are very popular. So I think one of the WPA, World Pool Association, I think the president or the vice president is from Africa. So I would expect more growth in Africa in the years to come, for sure.
Looking at so many things, you've won. You won Hall of Fame. You won all the cue sports title that needs to be won. You won that. For example, you've been named Player of the Year. You won the titles more than any other sports star. And, you know, what's the motivation? Do you still have motivation to do more right now? Because is there anything more to be won that you've not won?
I don't think so. I don't think there is for me. I'm at an age now where I'm enjoying my family life, a little bit of travel here and there. I enjoy that. So it's definitely different for me now than when I was a teenager, in my 20s, in my 30s. You know, the motivations are different. It's more about enjoying my life and less pressure. And I'll still be involved in the sport forever, I'm sure, because it's been everything in my life has really been, you know, surrounded by the cue sports and all the people in it. So I don't doubt that I'll always be involved. But I teach, you know, I do other aspects of it, commentate a little bit. So that takes up some time. And I don't know if I'm going to compete again or not. We'll see. It remains to be seen.
Okay. When you look at the women category now, is it that can you still say that you're happy that you have some people, great players that are succeeding you, you know, in terms of the quality of play by the women players that you have right now?
There's definitely some great players coming through. I would like to see more, but there's definitely some great players there. You know, you want the big names in it. You want people that people know, and to create stars of the game. And I think landing in America when I did was really a good time, because pool was booming. and it was on television all the time. So that was timing was really, really good. And that's what we need more of. Obviously, we're going through COVID right now. It's a terrible time in the world, overall. But there's still a lot of players playing online and competing. And, I'm sure they're chomping at the bit to get out there and play in major tournaments again. It's very exciting, really. I think, so many people love the game all over the world. It's definitely got its viewership, and now we need lots of quality players.
Your life is about the game, really. If you look at the fact that you have done virtually everything that needs to be done as far as the game is concerned. You play the game right now. You are in the background, maybe once in a while commentating, maybe once in a while also trying to coach at an academy. Are you thinking of doing more in terms of giving back more than maybe you're making some deliberate move to give back?
Yeah, I've got a lot of things in the pipeline that I can't really talk about right now because it's not the time to talk about them. But I think there's going to be big things happening this year for me, that I'm going to be involved in different projects. So I think we're going to see some big things happening in the Q Sports world. But some of it I can't really talk about right now. But definitely, part of me teaching the US juniors the last couple of years is somewhat giving back, and I do teach outside of that too.
And also, I must say, like I said, you've seen other aspect of it too, in terms of endorsement and thinking about the monetary gains and the sports compared to other sports. Don't you think there's still more way to go?
Oh, definitely. Absolutely. It's not a well-paid sport for sure. It's a labor of love when you play it, because obviously there's only one or two winners in the game. And like any sport, certain people tend to dominate it. So like I said earlier, I was very fortunate at the time that I went over to America and dominated for about a decade and got my name very well known. And I've had lots of different opportunities, which I've really enjoyed. But yeah, there's certainly sponsors within the industry that are really good, but we need to get, as always, outside of the industry to more corporate sponsors, because definitely, like I said earlier, the viewership's there, the participation's there. Now it's getting major corporations involved with the sport.
What about administering the game?
Administering the game, a couple of my projects might be doing something along those lines. But we need, there needs to be, as always, there's politics in sport. So, some of that needs to be cleaned up and everyone heading in the same direction so that maybe we can get one day into the Olympics.
What about you trying to throw your heart into the ring in terms of maybe going for the top shots, the top job?
I think it's on the cards. I think it's on the cards. You never know. You never know where I'll show up.
Because really, of course, at times, let's say, the sports also needs people who have been part of the history of the sport. So most times, those who understand the nitty-gritty of the game. And why wouldn't you, if the opportunity comes?
I would, actually. I think I would. I think I'd enjoy it. I think I love it that much. I would always be involved with it. And over the years, just growing up with all the players that I have from around the world has been kind of cool. I've spent, 20, 30 years on tour. So I've seen a lot of different things over the time, how the sport has progressed, times where we've fallen back a bit, times where we've moved forward. So I think I would love to be involved, at a top level in the game, in the administrative part, and we'll wait and see what happens in the future.
Yes, you won so many awards, and if I want to ask you, which of those particular awards makes a mark to you when you remember, or you look back at your shelf and you just think there's this particular award that is so dear to you? Any?
Yeah.
Do you have any?
Yeah, I think my very first national championship in America was very poignant for me because that was the first time my father came to America and saw me win pool tournament. And then first world championship in pool was a big deal. And then I think one that's really sort of quite an emotional one for me was winning the World Games gold medal. That was because, you know, they only happen once every 4 years. So there's a lifespan there. You know, you may make it, you may not. And so I did win that. And that was really something that I wanted to go in and win. So that was very special to me. And that happened in Taiwan in 2009.
And looking at back and some of the things you could change, especially if there is any regret so far?
I think to practice more and compete a little bit more than I did. I know I've got all these titles, but I think I don't think anyone's totally happy with what they've achieved. You know, I think there's always room to improve. But, you know, it's not going to make something that's make or break in my life, but I definitely could have worked a little bit harder, I think, a bit later on. Any particular player that gives you so much, that puts you under pressure, especially when you play that player? Maybe because I know, of course, you play women as much as you play men, but looking at some players that you know that anytime you face this player, there's so much pressure on you. Can you tell us? I think I've had a lot of rivalries over the years, good rivalries. Kelly Fisher and me are good rivals, but we're very, very good friends. Guy Young Kim from Korea is a great player. I admire her standard of play, but I love playing her because she's sort of a very offensive player, but a good all-round player. You know, Karen Kaur has been a real adversary of mine over the years. We've had some tremendous matches, Karen and me, over the years. And then there's some of the Chinese players, of course, that are playing really well. Chen Ximing and Han Yu. Lu Shasha. There's so many good players out there, and so many younger players coming through that I haven't really played much too. But yeah, we've had some tremendous rivalries over the years. It's been fun.
All right, let's talk about the new normal now. Talking about the season of the pandemic, how do you think it has affected you as a person, as a sportswoman? How has the pandemic affected you?
Well, I don't look at this cat. I think it's been life-changing because you look at everything very differently. You value everything differently. You know, I have 2 children at home. It's been, you know, in a way, it's been nice to spend more time with the children and family. My mum got COVID, my father-in-law, mother-in-law, you know, I've seen the older generation going through it, and fortunately they came through. So I've been very lucky, but I've known, you know, I think at this point with this pandemic that it's one of those things where you know somebody who has had a major problem with it or who has passed away. There's, you know, it's got to that state. So it's been a terrible thing for the world, a wake-up call, I think, in some ways of how to do things differently. But as far as the game goes, obviously players haven't been competing together. They've been playing from home or playing from a local pool room if they're allowed to. So the competition has been a bit different. You know, for example, I did go back to England and commentate on the Moscone Cup, and you could see that the players were very rusty in those games, and it was because they haven't competed. So it has affected a lot of, you know, the income of players, family life. It's just many different aspects to it. Some are good and some are not so good, but everyone has suffered, for sure.
What's your take about virtual Q sports? You know, there is a lot of innovation that this particular season has caused to some of the sports, especially when you look at the introduction of the virtual aspect of some of these Q sports.
Well, I think it's good and bad. I think it keeps the game going, so fans and everyone can watch it, players can watch. But I don't think it's easy to view. You know, like when you have 2 matches going on, you know, like ghost play, one playing here and then one playing there. I don't think it's easy to see what's happening at the table. So it depends on the situation. like Matchroom Sports do everything on TV and it comes through the internet and it's a proper arena and it's like a proper tournament. So I think that's been really good that they've managed to pull off events as other people. But when you're seeing the ghost play, the virtual play like that, it's a little tricky to see what's going on at the table and to commentate matches like that. But I think it's better to have something than not have anything.
We have opportunity to play me in a virtual game. Will you do that?
Not right now, though.
But I must say, for example, I know that there's so much that has been done for the game on the continent of Africa. So we need to come to the continent of Africa where there is an introduction by the body, the Confederation in Africa, to introduce the cue sport, especially snooker, to the universities. I don't know what you think, and what do you think can be done more?
There's a lot of learning in the games in pool and snooker. You can learn a lot of things. I think that'd be a great idea. And they, in many countries, like I've been to schools in China for like 8-year-olds, and they have pool halls in them, snooker tables, pool. So it's part of their infrastructure and education over there. They encourage it. Not so much in Europe, but definitely in America, there are college and university courses here for the cue sport. So it's very interesting. Some parts of the world, it's educational. Some parts, it's a sport or a game. So it just depends where you grow up. But there's certainly an educational aspect and a self-discipline to doing it.
I know you know some stories about Africa, especially the need to empower the girl child. Would you suggest that some of the empowering tools could be the cue spots?
Absolutely. Why not? It's an individual game, but you can play it in teams. You can play it doubles, singles. It's something for everyone. And for me, it's given me a lot of self-confidence, self-esteem, just participating, competing, hanging out with people socially. It's given me a lot of life skills, I think, which have been really good.
Well, Allison Fisher, I really had a fantastic time chatting up with you, and I must say that I'm looking forward to having you here in Nigeria someday to come and inspire some of our ladies.
I would love to. Sounds like a plan. We need to make that happen.
Definitely. It will happen very soon. I must thank you for trying to chat up with me today, because I know despite your very busy schedule, I must confess, it's really my pleasure. And I must say all the best to you and your family. Stay safe and always remember that we love you from Nigeria.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. Nice to see you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. All the best.
Bye-bye.
Yes, that's it for today's show today. We've been able to talk to a legend of the game, Allison Fisher. And we must say, and especially for me, I have drawn so much inspiration from a life that has impacted and has contributed to cue sports. And for the ladies and the women out there, I must say, keep dreaming. There's so much to achieve only if you believe. Till I come your way next time, keep porting.